Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, our guest is Cal Ewing. Cal, give us a bit of a background, a little bit about your story, and we'll jump into it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, Glenn, thanks for having me on. I just wanted to say I saw a post that you made the other day on Facebook. You've got quite a few followers or viewers of your podcast these days. So congrats on the success of that.
Thank you. You know what? It's one of those things. It's like a lot of work, and you get like, you think you want to quit sometimes. You're like, this isn't really driving anything, and then you're just like, you know what? You're just gonna keep doing it. Anything you're doing in your real estate or your own life gets tough. You're getting close, and then you just keep pushing.
Well, who'd have thought that there's so many Canadians that are interested in cross-border investing? It sort of seems like a small niche, but obviously there's people that want to do it. So that's great. I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. So to answer your question, I live in Calgary, Alberta, and I've been investing in real estate in the US exclusively since I guess I got my start in 2009, right when the market crashed in the States. And I've been full-time real estate investing since around 2016, I guess it is. And so I've only bought my current residence. That's the only deal I've ever done in Canada. So I don't have any experience up here, but I've got lots of experience up the border. Done a lot of wholesaling in Texas. I've bought at tax deed auctions. I've done subject twos and rentals and flips and you name it, I've done it. So
that's interesting because, a lot of people that I have as guests, they start off with Canadian, they figure out how to do it in their backyard, and then they go, wait, what are they doing over there? And then they they realize they can get some better numbers and stuff, and they move. So you, right from the start, how did you figure that out, right? Like, to make your first one that way?
Well, it's all Robert Kiyosaki's fault, actually.
Sorry?
It's all Robert Kiyosaki's fault.
Oh, okay.
So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I got really into real estate. And then I even signed up for one of their, traveling roadshow mentorship, big, huge packages.
Yep.
And most of what they were teaching, you couldn't really do here in Canada. So I tried a little bit, and I just got really frustrated because I kept finding out that either it just doesn't work because, there's not public data available to find motivated sellers up here, or the strategy doesn't work here. So I was really frustrated. And so I ended up finding a mentor who was already investing in the States and just learning how to do it. And I never really looked back after that.
So what strategies did you go into?
Well, so when I got started, I'm not sure if you've had Mike Wolf on here or not. I think
I've had Mike on.
Mike, yeah. So he got going investing in foreclosures in Vegas way back in 2008 and 9, and he'd help you buy a property. And so when I first got going, I just got some people together that had some money, and we pooled our funds together, and it was really hands off, and I knew nothing, but it got my feet wet and got me excited about real estate after that.
So you started doing some projects in Vegas, and
yep. Vegas, and then Phoenix, because Phoenix crashed about a year later, and so there's deals happening.
And that's those are foreclosure to flip or foreclosure to like a burr? Flip?
Both. It was foreclosure to flip on the first one, and then foreclosure to rental after that. And we didn't refinance. We just kept it cash, and we kept it for a few years. And we bought really at the bottom of the market, so we got most of the appreciation in the first few years in Phoenix, and then we sold it off, which I regret now based on property values, but
it changes a lot,
right? Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you Vegas, and then what was the next market?
Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix, and
then Texas.
Because I know I'm trying to lead here because I know at some point you're going to get to note investing and you're going to get to do some wholesaling. So how does it progress to go away there?
Yeah, so then I got into Texas more, for numerous reasons. I got into buying at the tax deed auctions, and I got into wholesaling in Texas. And I mean, being in Calgary, the flights directly to Houston are pretty cheap because of oil and gas, and there's so many flights every day. So it made a lot of sense there. There's a lot of parallels between Houston and Calgary. And so I got really big into buying and wholesaling houses in Houston, Texas. And I built a team there. One of my best friends growing up, her new husband ended up being my business partner who lived in Texas. And so had really good boots on the ground, which really, really helped. And right around then I was doing some flips, and that's when Hurricane Harvey hit. And I know we're going to talk about hurricanes today, just because of the recent hurricanes that have affected the East Coast this month. So yeah, it was rough.
Okay, let's talk some hurricanes, and then we'll circle back and we'll do the notes. I think that's the way to structure.
That sounds good.
So
Sure.
yeah, we're recording this on, just because sometimes I release this a few weeks later.
Sure.
But this is October 4th. So we're really, just for people who are listening for 2022, to give you timely. So we just had like a week ago about the Hurricane Ian that came up the Gulf Shore, so hit all through the eastern Florida, right? Or western Florida, up the Gulf Shore. And you dealt with this same sort of thing down in Texas. So
yeah. Well, we also had Hurricane Fiona or something that hit Canada, like Newfoundland and
East Coast.
Yeah. So two pretty big hurricanes. Obviously, the one in Canada wasn't as bad, but still had some damage there. So there's opportunity in Canada too for this. But a lot of parallels between the damage that Hurricane Ian is causing and what Hurricane Harvey caused in 2017 in Houston. So the biggest problem in Houston at that time is there's just so much concrete, and they didn't have enough flood controls, and so areas flooded like crazy there. There's no place for the water to go, and so all the typical flood zones in Houston flooded, but there was so much water that they ended up having to release some of the reservoirs or dams in order to save the city. They actually had to flood other parts of the city, and so there was areas in Houston that flooded that were not in any kind of designated flood zone. So the homeowners in those areas had no flood insurance because it was never supposed to flood, and they got flooded hard. I talked to one seller. She didn't have flood insurance, and the water hit her house so hard that it moved off the foundation by like 2 feet. That's how. Oh. Yeah, it was crazy. And then the contractors that she had to fix her house, they ripped her off and ran away with all their money. So, but that was some of the kind of stories though we would hear.
Yeah.
And so my story is I had 2 flips on the go during that time. And being from up here in Canada, this is one of the things that it's hard when you're not local, because sometimes you don't realize what the locals know about our real estate market when you're investing from abroad. And so I didn't really pay too much attention to flooding. Like I knew that there's a chance of hurricanes in Houston, obviously, but I really wasn't scared of it. I figured, what are the odds? I'm going to do a 6-month flip at the most. What are the chances that I'm going to get flooded, right? It's not going to happen to me. I just wanted a deal. And so I ended up getting my first flip, actually. I bought that from a Bandit sign. And we got that flip going. And then the day of our open house, the remodel's all completed. We've got our open house set for the Sunday that Harvey hit Houston. And it flooded, like 4 feet of water. And not only that, but I bought another deal from a wholesaler, and it was actually flooded a couple years ago from a smaller flood, and it was like not remodeled. So it was like remediated, but it wasn't repaired. And so I bought it from a wholesaler, and we were going to do the remodel and sell it. And that one flooded like 6 feet of water. So sometimes in real estate, you learn the hard way, right? You learn your lesson.
Tell me about this. So you got these flooded places, especially the remodeled ones. That one hurts. So I'm guessing you still have insurance in place on this property. When I started investing in the US, I did it by myself and had to go through the growing pains of doing that. GlennSutherland.com/coaching. A 12-week coaching program done 1 hour per week over Zoom from the comfort of your own home. Classes are kept to 5 people to be able to answer everyone's questions. Shortcut the process. Make fewer mistakes. Curriculum available at GlennSutherland.com/coaching.
Yeah, so luckily our hard money lender that we were using, they were smart and they made us get flood insurance. So we were paying flood insurance on it, and thank God for that. So we did have the money come back to remodel the properties again. And so we did that. But the problem is we had expensive hard money loans, and I had a private lender on each property as well as a second lender to fund the deal. And so instead of a 6-month flip, we're paying hard money for over a year, like a year and a half on these properties.
How long did it take you to get the cash from the insurance company to be able to start?
It took a couple months. So we had
they've never been fast for me either.
Yeah, it takes a while. And luckily our hard money lenders were willing to work with us, and they put a pause on our payments for a few months, which was nice. That helped. but eventually the payments kicked back in, and then it was just, trying to keep these properties afloat. And so the one property, the one that we had our open house on, the other problem is that because it had flooded more than once, and this is the big lesson that I learned, is like, if you're in a flood zone and it's flooded in the past and then it floods again, your market values can go way down. And so I think our ARV on that property, we expected to sell it the first time, was like 260. And then after we remodeled after the flood, the second time, we couldn't get it sold for like 190.
Oh, that's a big 70 grand.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes that's what real estate does, right? You have to learn the hard lessons and figure out how to get through them. And we did. And it was hard. And, I'm still trying to recover in some ways. The private lenders that we had, we're still working on paying them back, because I never want anyone to lose money on the deal. And so it was tough, but there was also opportunity. And I wanted to mainly talk to your viewers about the opportunities right now that are in Florida and along the East Coast after a hurricane.
Yeah,
and
let's do opportunity. I have one question before we go.
Sure.
So you got this thing all flooded, and I guess it depends what's happened to it. Does it require any permits? Because I know that's what holds me up after doing this. Or you just get the insurance money, they basically cut the drywall in half and re-drywall and put it together? Or is there like recertification of the electrical and everything else you have to jump through too?
At that time, I don't believe we had to do too much of that, but we definitely remediated for mold. We did all the mold treatments, because we knew that any buyer is going to want to make sure that we handled that.
Yep.
So that was a big thing for us to make sure we did. Yeah.
Okay. No, that was my only thing. I was just curious, because it's one of those things you could. Sometimes permits will hold you up off the start, and you might have to go through it a second time. Is all I was just thinking.
Yeah.
So opportunities. There's a Florida hurricane. There's a East Coast, Canada hurricane. What kind of opportunities exist right now?
Well, so after those floods, I realized that maybe flipping isn't my thing. But I did get into wholesaling big, and I had the most success I've ever had in my wholesaling business was right after the hurricane, because there were so many motivated sellers. And like I said, people that didn't have flood insurance. And these were areas like $1 million homes in some areas that flooded. And so it wasn't just your typical, your typical deals. You had like high-end deals. You had all kinds of different houses that flooded. And so it was like, you could pick from the litter. And so we started marketing hardcore in the areas that flooded, and we used bandit signs. And so we just looked at the flood maps and figured out what regions were flooding. And that's where we put out bandit signs. We ran Facebook ads, which were really, really successful. So we ran Facebook ads that were specific to those neighborhoods that flooded.
Yeah.
And I can actually, if any of your viewers want to do this in Florida, I can actually send you some copies of our Facebook ads that worked so well. Because we were getting responses daily for about a year, and then it faded off, and then we were getting no more traction on this. But so that was the only time I've really had Facebook ads work well, and that's because we were so local, and we knew there's a lot of motivated people. Then we did like Craigslist ads. So we just did all kinds of marketing. We sent out mail to these homeowners, et cetera, et cetera. And the number of deals that we got was just, I couldn't keep up really. Yeah.
Question about this. So you're wholesaling to like these people who have the distressed home right now. There's insurance element to this, possibly, right? So depending if they're in the flood zone, if they have their flood insurance, if they've actually done this, the ones that are motivated who don't have this stuff, but say they have the money for that, would that insurance money be transferred to you, or does that homeowner get it and then they just don't do the renovation and they get to walk away with that money and the money you pay them? Or do you factor that in to the offer you make them? I'm just wondering like how this whole insurance falls together with this.
Well, that's a good question, and I can't answer that because all of the clients that we ended up having, they were people that didn't have insurance.
Okay. No, that's good.
So the ones that did, they would just go ahead and either keep their home and just remodel it, or they would do the remodel and then sell it off and leave that area. So I knew people that were tired of it. They're like, this is my last flood, I'm out. But they just remodeled with the insurance money. So our clients were people that didn't have insurance.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they're very they it might be a huge bill that they've had to repair this like 4 or 5 years or 10 years ago, and now it's come back again, and they still don't have the money to fix this place up. So they're motivated to let it go.
Yeah. And so we had some people that were ready to sell right away, right after the flooding. And then we had other people that, for whatever reason, they were sitting on their house for a year. Some of them, they would remediate, get it dried out and cleared up. There's other houses that were just moldy and they've been sitting wet for a long time and finally drained, and they were a mess. So you're going to get both. And that's the mold's a big thing to watch out for, especially if you're buying, if you're looking to buy deals. But if you're wholesaling, I mean, your buyer's going to be very concerned about that as well. So the people that jump on it quick and get the houses dried out, but then they don't want to do the remodel, those are the best deals to try and wrap up.
And with doing this from Canada, like there's probably a lot of damage. How do you estimate this, the renovation amount that's going to need to get done from doing this?
Yeah, well, that's where you need to have a good contractor that you can at least talk to. Like if you're not doing flips, it's good to just reach out to some contractors. I know they're going to be busy right now in Florida.
They'll be so busy to try and get them to go bid something.
Yeah, but and talk to your buyers as well. That's probably maybe an easier and more direct way to get an answer, is talk to your buyers that are doing fix and flips in your market. And if you're brand new and you're just going to jump into one of these markets, you got to be looking for buyers right away. But yeah, ask your buyers. They should know what a severely damaged property is going to cost in repairs, whether that's like a fire damage or other real bad properties. They should have a rough example or idea of what the remodel is going to cost, and then definitely factor that in plus a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what remodels are going to be down in Florida right now, so I can't really give you advice.
I think the hardest part might be to get a contractor. If you're coming in a little bit later, right? You're buying the properties, like some of the other people, their place got wrecked and they got the contractor going right away. But you're coming in after, and then you're getting this property tied up, and then going to get the contractor. They might already be busy. Like that's where
yeah, that is a problem for sure. And I think people that are wanting to get into that market, you've got a few years. Like it takes time to get all this inventory taken care of and remodeled and stuff like that. So yeah, you do have time if you can't find a contractor right away, or your buyers might not have contractors right away. But this is I'd say probably a 2-year window of opportunity to make some money wholesaling, and also, or even buying, but and also helping a lot of people that are going to need help, and they need investor help, because they can't just list these properties on the MLS and get them sold, right? The only solution for these people is they need investors to help get them out of this situation, and some of them are in pretty bad trouble. So
you mentioned the MLS, and I'm always surprised that I bet you that there will be some that show up there even.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is an opportunity. Like there's an opportunity, and it's not being predatory because you're helping them out of a problem that they have no solution to. They didn't get their insurance, and they just need the money, and they need to exit, take some cash, and deploy it somewhere else.
Yeah. And a lot of these people, that's their home, and so they need a place to go, and they need cash so that they can buy a new place eventually if they can. So yeah. So I think it's a huge opportunity for anyone that's open to it, especially wholesaling. I recommend wholesaling these properties because then there's no risk to you. Leave it to the local fix and flippers that can handle the risk and know the market, have the teams. But I recommend wholesaling is a really good opportunity right now for people down. Well, and even in like Newfoundland and areas like that as well.
Oh yeah. I just did a podcast on New Brunswick a couple weeks ago. But yeah, no, I'm not against. I'm like, it's distance real estate. You can do this anywhere, right? You can do this out on the East Coast. You can do this out in Calgary if you're in Ontario. Wherever. Yeah. People make it work everywhere.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, how do people contact you? How do they reach out to you? They want to learn more about note investing. They want to learn more about wholesaling. What's the best way to do this?
Probably the best way. I have a Facebook group as well. If you just search real estate wealth creators on Facebook, that's one way. You can also contact me. It's cal@calewing.com. So you can just email me that way. Those are probably the two easiest ways.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, man, it's been great. I know we've been trying like for over a year. I'm glad things have lined up. I can be on it.
We have been trying to match this up for a while.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. We actually got it done, and I love it. We haven't talked about note investing in I think I haven't done it in like 2 years on the podcast. It's been a while.
Oh, perfect.
So,
That's great.
nice to bring that up again. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been awesome, Glenn. I'll have to do it again.